Private Seri Academy is the highest-ranking institute in the whole of Japan, attended mostly by students with special privileges. However, even with all the distinct talent around, there is one particular student who shines the brightest, like a flickering flame in the dark. Alisa Mihailovna Kyuju, born to a Russian father and a Japanese mother, is regarded as the miraculous beauty of the school by her fellow students. As she is heading to the class, a group of students comment that she is nicknamed the Solitary Princess as she is hard to approach. Suddenly, the popular student of the school, Andu, decides to greet her and the entire school spectates in awe. Alisa answers his greeting, and just as he tries smoothing things out with her, she flatly tells him that she has no interest in him and doesn't accept his flowers. After telling him that his uniform is against the school's regulations and putting him in his place, she leaves for her class, as it is evident that she has no likeness toward any student at the school. One of the guys wonders about the type of boys she might be interested in. At the class, Kyu's Masachika is dozing off like usual, and Alisa quickly wakes him up forcefully. She knows that he was up all night watching anime and starts lecturing him. Hughes apologizes for it and tells her that the interesting discussion about the anime got the best of him, and by the time he decided to sleep, it was already morning. Hughes is the only one who calls her by her pet name, Alia, but she still remains stern toward him. She is disgusted that he can be so proud about being an otaku and criticizes his shamelessness, but he has no problem admitting that. Seeing as the two interact so closely with each other, his friends are happy for him, while the popular guy comments that he will soon get tired of seeing this pretty lady. Alia has a tendency to speak in Russian to hide her feelings, and she has a crush on Kyu's. As she looks at him, she is immediately flustered at how cute he looks and reveals that he would look so cool if he tried working earnestly. As she believes that the other cannot understand Russian, she has no problem saying these things out loud, and when confronted, she just tells him that she is mocking him. On the other hand, Hughes reveals that, while he never studied Russian, he used to watch Russian movies with his grandfather, which made him decent at understanding the language. Hughes catches up with everything Alia is saying and blushes out. She should at least talk things quietly in front of him. Except for his sister, nobody knows that he can understand Russian perfectly. Hughes is once again dozing off in the class until Alisa smashes off his ribs to wake him up. The sudden pain is too agonizing for him, prompting him to immediately stand up. The teacher feels that he is confident enough to answer a question and Hughes has to fill in for another student. As he doesn't know the answer, Alisa writes it for him to see, but he eventually realizes that she was just mocking him for sleeping in the class. After she tells him that it was his fault that everything started with his unethical habit, he apologizes. Afterward, Hughes quickly remembers about a certain event in his favorite gacha and manages to pull off the rarest character. Alisa quickly takes his phone as it is against the law and he begs for it. After having a look at the character, Alisa realizes that the traits don't add up to the lore of the character, and he tells her that silver hair is just there for cuteness. She mutters in Russian that her hair is silver as well, yet she never gets a compliment for it. Hughes regrets telling this to her as she takes everything too literally and personally. Later that night, she still hasn't gotten over Hughes liking the certain character and decides to cosplay in her room. However, she is quickly interrupted by her roommate and she is flustered that the other entered without knocking. Masha, her sister, tells her that it was she who was so indulged in her cosplay that she didn't even hear the knocking. Hughes is eating lunch with his friends, Maruyama Takeshi and Kiyomiya Hikaru, in the cafeteria when they get worried about his health after seeing his lunch. The two warn him that eating too many spices will get him fighting for his life in the restroom, but he assures them that it's just the color that is red. Yeah bro, we totally believe you. Afterward, Takeshi is angry that he is so lucky in his life, and Hughes assumes that he is talking about his gacha luck where he managed to pull the rarest character. He quickly assures him that it was all due to his grind set of several months that got him lucky. Damn, G is a certified hustler. Takeshi isn't talking about his gacha luck, but rather about how he gets to sit next to a beauty like Alisa. He is jealous that he calls her by her pet name, yet she doesn't get enraged at him. This is the least of things to be worried about considering how she compliments him in her language yet criticizes him in the face. Suddenly, Alisa, along with her student council fellows, enter the cafeteria and everyone averts their gazes toward them. They are all amazed at the trio of beauties they are spectating, their hearts captivated by their brilliance. Alisa, along with her sister, Maria, and Yuki, are here for lunch, and Hikaru immediately starts commenting about their nicknames and the vibes around them. The other two immediately get annoyed by this and tell him to change the conversation to something else as they feel there are more worthwhile things to talk about than simply observing the girls. After Maria goes away, Sue approaches them and asks if they could sit beside them to eat lunch, as they have plenty of space. They allow her and Alisa, and even she is a connoisseur of spiciness. Seeing how they interact with each other, Alisa is curious about their relationship, and much to her amazement, Sue reveals that they are childhood friends. Alisa is amazed that the two date back so far. and shows a sprinkle of jealousy, though her admiration far surpasses the envy. His two friends aren't really good around girls, so they take their excuse and buzz off, leaving Q's alone with the girls. The other guys in the cafeteria are all envious that the princesses of their school are serving him, and want to throw him out of the window badly. But alas, peasants don't have a choice. I feel you, bruh. Hughes wants to sneak out as well, but Sue stops him from doing that. Alisa has sorted out her feelings and is impressed that the two were able to keep their friendship for so long, and Hughes asks how she is getting with Sue. The two really aren't up to the mark yet, but they feel optimistic that they will become friends soon. Hughes understands that making friends for Alisa is extremely hard, as she never constantly remained in a single school in her early life. After she tells him that people may not enjoy her company, he encourages her to try interacting with people and explains that it is just her social anxiety preventing her from engaging in conversations with people. She suddenly feels optimistic about this, and Sue instantly offers a friendship. Sue always wanted to be friends with her, and now that the two share a bond, she lies to Alisa that Hughes always talks about her and about his admiration for her. Sue deeply admires Hughes for going out of his way and helping anyone who shows a little effort. Alisa is once again flustered and starts speaking in Russian, though she quickly tells him to not look at her face. Sue confronts Hughes about returning to the student council, but he declines once again. Alisa doesn't know about any of this, and upon inquiring, she is told that Hughes used to be the vice president of the student council. Alisa is shocked that someone undisciplined like Hughes was once a vice president, though you can see where she is coming from. She tells Alisa that back in their middle school, the two were president and vice respectively. Even though Hughes is the laziest person in the whole world, on his day, he can get any work done. Hughes isn't really keen about joining the council, as he believes that the position is just low for his stature, and thinks of a solution to get out of this situation. He believes he will constantly get reprimanded for his habits, and instantly denies it. Sue tells him that the new guys are all just opportunists, and they barely have any passion for making school a better place for students. As Hughes already has the experience, she believes that they can get anything done. Alisa is astonished that they are so close physically and reveals her disappointment, as she already knows that they are more than just childhood friends. But well, whatever could be done now. She doesn't feel good about not being told about this, but Hughes is just too busy to even hear this. As they are getting ready to go to the class, Alisa confronts him about this, and he tells her that she is just as much a girlfriend as Sue to him. Hearing this surprised her, as she never believed that the other would consider her a friend. She is annoyed that he points his fingers at others and reprimands him for this habit. In a bizarre turn of events, Hughes finds himself gazing at the incredibly slim thighs of Alisa, and he explains that all it took was 20 minutes of his homeroom cleaning duty. Earlier, he got into a class, hoping his partner, Alisa, would soon join him and the two can then clean the room together. However, she takes her time before showing up injured, with blood streaming out of her leg. She explains that she was hit by a truck, although it doesn't seem like a person can resist damage against a vehicle of that sort. Just what do Russians eat? After he brings a towel and socks for her, she asks him to clean her leg, and in doing so, all his focus averts to her thighs. He is embarrassed but still decides to hide it, as it might make her uncomfortable. As a reward for helping her out, she wants him to put on her socks for her. Did Tarantino write this chapter? Hughes tries avoiding this situation, but the other tells him that she doesn't have her indoor shoes on and it can't be helped. Hughes isn't a fetishist and feels weird about this whole setup, but what can he do about a spoiled princess like her? Alisa realizes that he is once again dozing off into the fantasy world and brings him back forcefully. She quietly reveals in Russian that it is a reward for her as well, but just as she is about to translate in her own way, Hughes stops her, telling her that he would gladly put them on for her. Hughes slowly reaches out to her feet to put on her socks for her and slowly caresses her feet like some enthusiast. Just a touch is enough to make her moan, and the other reprimands her for producing weird noises, making him unable to focus on his work. While they are at it, his two friends suddenly walk in through the door and the two have to hide beside the window. Both of them are flustered as Hughes is constantly touching her, and she feels that he is taking advantage of the confusion. She apologizes to Hikaru for making him help with his work, but the other assures him that he enjoyed helping, though he takes it back once she reveals that the motivation behind his work is futuristic fame. Suddenly, they feel a chilly breeze, and Hikaru decides to shut the windows. He spots Hughes and Alisa behind the curtain, misunderstanding the situation. As he doesn't want to make him feel shameful, he decides to leave and instructs Takeishi to do so as well. Just as they leave, the two get into another awkward position, leading to Hughes accidentally glancing at her undies. She reveals her embarrassment in Russian like usual, and Hughes understands it perfectly. Alisa is in a foul mood and everyone fears that she's going to throw a rampage soon enough. However, more than being angry, she is rather embarrassed about the earlier event which led to Hughes touching her, and her kicking him instinctively in return. To make up for it, Hughes brings her a drink and apologizes for his behavior. Even though she is too flustered to admit her mistake, she accepts his apology and forces herself to swallow her pride and apologize to him in return as well. She doesn't want their secret out and hopes, in Russian, that the other never tells anyone about the embarrassing event. He picks it up, in awe at how cute she looks, and tells her that never intended to reveal it. Of course, it was obvious, and she took her leave. Upon return to her home, her sister, Masha, has been eagerly awaiting her return, and she starts kissing him and gets too close. Masha isn't letting her go even when Alisa prepares food for them, and she wants her to be her adorable little sister forever. Alisa feels embarrassed about this as time has moved forward and they are not kids anymore. Suddenly, Masha spots the cold drink Hughes gave to Alisa, and the two start discussing how she has gotten in love with someone. Alisa tries clearing the situation that they aren't in a relationship and just made up. But the other elevates the situation even more by teasing her that someone has finally penetrated her heart full of disdain. Alisa assures her that they are just friends, and Masha wants to know about the event that led to them getting closer to each other. Alisa always knew how gifted she was to have a kind family and such qualities that most people lack. To be thankful for them, she decided to only rely on them to live her remaining life. 6 years ago, while she was still in Russia, their teacher gave them an assignment to interview the local businesses and gather information about them. Masha's friends tell her how polite and earnest her sister, Alisa, is and worry that too much kindness will get her into trouble, especially with the guys she has on her team. However, Masha assures them that Alisa can solve any situation as long as her mind is on it. After a week of research, she checks up on her group mates to know how their research is progressing and is astounded that they haven't even started. Alisa lectures them that this is a group project and they best give it their shot. However, the others simply lack manners and tell her that group projects aren't that worthy. On the result day, her team loses, and her teammates just mock her to increase her worries. On that fateful day, Alisa realized that she could never depend on anyone, and only her own efforts would come in handy. She decided to not get attached to others and meddle in their life ever since. Fast forward 5 years, she transferred over to Japan due to her father's job, and everyone is in awe at her beauty. After being bombarded with questions, Alisa feels that perhaps choosing this school wasn't the best choice she made, as the students are impressed even over the smallest of things. Just then, she spots Hughes sleeping on his desk. Even with all the ruckus around, Alisa is impressed that he was able to sleep through it and wakes him after the bell rings. Hughes recognizes her as the popular transfer student who gave the speech at the ceremony. But he is too sleepy to have a proper introduction with her, and for the first time in her life, Alisa feels ignored by someone. Later, their classmates announce that they are planning the haunted house for the festival, and Alisa decides to be on the team with the girls to create various costumes. Alisa feels that perhaps this time things will be different and everyone will work together as one, but quickly realizes that the initial motivation is nowhere to be found and the girls aren't serious about completing the project. They excuse that they have various things after school and decide to go, leaving everything in Alisa's hand. Even though she knew this was going to happen eventually, she is still heartbroken about this, and with crying eyes, she decides to finish the project by herself. Suddenly, Hughes barges into the room. Hughes reveals that he had left his bag in the class and just came back to pick it up. He sees her tearful eyes and tells her that just because she is talented doesn't mean she can go around and do everyone's work. In the worst-case scenario, people will likely take advantage of her, and besides, a school festival isn't something you give your all to. He explains that the direction of her effort is wrong. Even though she knows that it's just her being selfish and all, she still wants to give her all, as the team should always accomplish their task. Hughes interrupts her lecture and tells her about the boarding house permit, and reveals that he made negotiations with the handicraft club members so that they can do some work for her. As for her task, he tells her to think of a way to motivate others rather than solely relying on herself. Alisa never gave this much thought and is ashamed that someone as lazy as Hughes advised her to do so. Hughes tells her that the reason he did it for her was because it was obvious that she was trying to give it her all. Alisa is too embarrassed to thank him in person, and just as he leaves, she shows her gratitude in Russian. At the boarding house, Takshi informs everyone that after they finish reviewing their schedule and performing the work in each of their small groups, they will finally have all the time in the world to enjoy the test of courage and pillow fight tournament. Alisa is glad that everything got sorted out and believes that it was all the idea of a single student, Hughes. Their classmates bring over supper for the boys, and the motivation further increases in the room, though Hughes tells them that they can only enjoy the food once they have finished doing their work. The handicraft club members arrive and they have finished preparing the costumes. They tell Alisa to check it out and everyone is amazed at how stunning she looks. As the costume looks like a decorated treasure, they all want to know who worked on it and are surprised when the club member reveals that it was Alisa herself who worked hard until the club took over the project. Her group mates apologize for making her do all the work while she nervously assures them that she never faced any trouble, seeing as she was the only one who worked hard enough for the festival. All the students in the room gained extra motivation to not let Alisa outdo them. After thoroughly working up, they managed to prepare the haunted house for the festival, enough to scare all the attendants. As for post-festival celebrations, students have decided on the dance party, and just as it commences, Alisa goes over to the side to sit with the lonesome Q's, who is enjoying his time simply by watching their dance. The two sit beside each other and he inquires whether she can dance. She has rejected several invitations from the other students and assures her that she knows more than enough moves, as she may not be familiar with the folk dance. Hughes explains it to her and tells her that it is a rare instance to come across it nowadays. Hughes calls her by the nickname of Solitary Princess, which she doesn't take lightly. She explains that the princess is someone who hardly does all the work by herself and mostly relies on others, while Alisa is someone who only depends on her own efforts, and thus, calling her a princess is undermining her qualities. Hughes realizes that he has made a mistake and apologizes for it. The other doesn't want his apology, as it was thanks to him that she enjoyed the festival. While it's true that he didn't do much work, he provided them with a safe working environment. Alisa quietly whispers that he saved her as well, and tells him that he can ask for anything. Hughes wants to know her nickname, and after accurately assuming it's Alia, he asks for the right to call her by her nickname. Embarrassing may it be, she gives him the right, and suddenly, all the students ask her out to dance with them. Hughes immediately stands up to tell them she is already taken and takes her to share the night's flair with her. As the two walk into the limelight, nobody recognizes Hughes, as he mostly does his work from the shadows. Compared to him, Alisa shines the brightest like a lonesome star on a young dark sky. Her moves speak of elegance and everyone is captivated by her movements. The boys even criticize Hughes for not performing on her level, but just like a supporting character, he is there to pave the way for her smoothing performance and prevent her from being too reckless on her body. Although most students have a complete grasp of dance and it is too difficult for them to understand this, Alisa is completely captivated by his brilliance and she immediately clings on to him, making everyone jealous. This is the first time for her heart to bloom in happiness, and it's all thanks to the young man. The following day, she is too nervous to confront him but assures herself that it is just a strange coincidence and not like they are lovers anyway. He is dozing off like usual in his class and tells her that he forgot his homework and asks for hers. Everyone believes that she will burst out into madness, but strangely she accepts his request. Hughes' laziness continued and she realized that no matter what the circumstance, she always felt comfortable around him. There was no competition between them. I mean, my guy is too lazy to compete. Presently, Masha thoroughly analyzes this and concludes that they need to turn from friends into lovers. She reveals that loving each other doesn't mean going on dates or having kisses on special occasions. If simply touching them makes them happy, it should be enough for the two. She tells her to put on the sock to see if she gets the same feeling. But Alisa realizes that it was only with Q's and finally confirms that she is indeed in love with him. Will she ever confess to him? What do you guys think? Let us know in the comments. For now, leave us a like and subscribe to our channel.